Welcome to Wines to Find, episode 151. Our wines today are a 2021 M Rosé and a 2019 Peter Paul Red Blend. Our topic today is part of our Fitting Wine into Your Lifestyle series and is focused on sustainability. We are going to define what that means and what efforts are being made in the wine industry towards sustainability and how you as the consumer can identify wines that are made with sustainability as a focus. Our guest today is Meghan Vergara, owner of M Rosé. In addition to M Rosé, Meghan is a certified somm with 18 years of experience in the wine and hospitality industry, with formal education earned in New York City from the Sommelier Society of America and experience working with top winemakers, industry professionals, and more. Meghan has spent her career dedicated to pursuing sharing knowledge, enjoyment, and success in wine. She currently is working as a consultant for Napa Green, which is the leading wine sustainability certification program, and she is here to talk with us about sustainability, the efforts Napa Green is making towards sustainability, and to help us know about sustainability, she was our go-to, Sandy, when we thought about who can we have on. We thought we really want to reach out to Napa Green. We did, and Meghan so graciously agreed to join us. So, Meghan, thank you for joining us, and welcome to Wines to Find.
Excellent. Thank you. It's a joy to be here. I'm very excited to talk with you today about these great wines and sustainability in wine.
Excellent. Yes, we are. We want to hop right into your wine, which is the M Rosé, so then we can deep dive into sustainability.
Great. Let's do it.
Yeah.
It is it is such a classic rosé color.
It really
Light,
is a gorgeous
clear
color.
Thank you. Yeah, it's so wonderful to produce rosé. I was a somm for many years, and getting to work one-on-one with people that drink wine and experience wine and enjoy wine, it was wonderful to get to take a lot of the things that I've heard over the years and finally be able to produce wine from that vantage point. So it was really special to try to create something that I think everybody would enjoy. And I set out to make a really what we call intentional rosé, and that just is a nod to the fact that some rosés are made sort of quickly or sort of as an afterthought. They're actually, some of them are Saunier method, which means they're going to become red wines. And then some of them are blended and things like that. This is not. We actually hand harvested grapes at night. We grew them with the intention of it being rosé. That's sort of where that intentional comes from. And it's 100% Pinot Noir from a legendary vineyard called the Bacigalupe Vineyard in Russian River Valley, Sonoma. So we just thought it through all the way through, and we treat it very much like any other very expensive Chardonnay or red wine would be produced. And the hopes is that it has this delicious kind of rich, complex, round flavor. As I was tasting and buying a lot of wine in my journey, I realized I love rosé. The market loves rosé. It's a very popular sector right now. Sales are going through the roof. And they're wonderful, but a lot of them you get like a little bit of flavor up front and then it just kind of disappears. So we wanted it to have that texture, that character, that complexity that we love about like Chardonnays and Pinot Noirs and things of that nature. And so hopefully that's an experience that you guys find in the wines. But I know this is your first sip, so
Yeah,
cheers. Thank you for having
Cheers.
me on.
Yes.
thank you.
Well, it is
Much
so
enjoyed.
floral smelling right now. That's the first thing. It's very intense. As soon as you put my nose in the glass, I mean it's got a lot of different smells going on.
It does.
Some good
It does.
stuff.
Can we taste?
Yes.
I love it.
It's very pleasant.
And it's one of those that tastes like it smells. It has
It very
that
much
good
has that.
impact. Sometimes whenever you taste something, it doesn't taste like it smells. This does.
Yeah.
It's got a lot of action going on.
And it does have a very long finish. Just now, I got a really strong sense of fruit right as like the last little bit left in my mouth. So that's very pleasant for it to linger as it does.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it. I have a very awesome winemaker who is just a dear friend of mine. His name is Vincent Traverso. And so I'm the vintner. I own the brand and I work with him and I kind of created this concept. But I knew, I feel like to be a good business person, you need to know that you know a lot, but you're never like the expert. So I brought on like a super specialized expert for rosé production. And he wrote his master's thesis on how to make a better American rosé, and he studied in the south of France, which is, the home of world-class rosé.
Yeah.
And that was his main thing that he kept telling me. He's like, I need it to have what he calls a vinous quality. Like,
What does that
again,
mean?
rosés, good question. Rosés tend to be light and crisp and refreshing, very citrusy typically, but red
Mm-hmm.
wines, if you notice, or a great Chardonnay has this like textural, velvety, luxurious thing going on the
Mm-hmm.
finish that
Mm-hmm.
carries on. That's like a vinous quality. It's like a texture almost. And so
Oh,
that was
Venice. How
really,
do you spell
So
that?
yeah.
VIN, like vinous?
Yep. Yeah,
Okay.
Vinous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Okay.
that was his main word that he kept using over and over, and I loved it. I was like, absolutely. So what we do to achieve that is a couple different things. I mean, you start with good fruit. That's, more than
Yeah.
half the battle in winemaking is if you can get working with a great vineyard, which I'm so honored to work with the Bacigalupe vineyard. They're legendary. You start with grapefruit and then you just really take care of it. You don't need to overdo it. You don't need to overproduce it. But what we thought would be really cool is to use neutral barrels, and it's neutral French oak barrels. So that simply means they're about 3 years old. And so the toast on the inside is no longer there. So it doesn't give you an oaky flavor, but it takes the acidity and kind of makes it a silkier acidity,
Okay.
That
if
makes
that makes
sense.
sense. So,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
yeah.
it does. It feels very silky. It definitely feel it has a mouth
Has that,
feel.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
definitely has that mouthfeel. And now we know it's vinous is what that means. So
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
that's a great
Venice. Yeah.
description. Venice.
Yeah. That
Venice.
textural thing. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
We love it.
We and
So,
Michelle and I are both texture people whenever it
Mm-hmm.
comes to wine. I know some people really aren't, that they could care less about it, but that's something that we both have learned that
And it's
really
better than some of the other words that I use to try to say that that really don't
no.
work. And then I'm
Yeah.
like, and that might sound off-putting, but it's really good. So Venice, we'll have
I
to
know.
we'll have to work that one
Isn't
in.
that fun to try to find the right words? I do it all the time. Sometimes weird ones come out too for me. I'm like, well, yeah. But yeah, I love that word. That was definitely our goal. So kind of intentionally produced and with that Venice kind of texture and character for sure. So
Well, so let's talk about first. So 18 years ago, you got into wine. Was it your first love or your first career, or how did you start, and what brought you
oh,
into the world of wine?
thank you for asking. Yeah, that's a fun thing in any wine professional's journey is we all kind of have what we like to say are like our aha moments because
mm-hmm.
we often joke that you have to be like incredibly passionate in this business like in it takes a lot and it takes a lot of effort and study and especially when you go to make wine, it's a whole other level.
Mm-hmm.
And you're dealing with Mother Nature, so anything can happen at any time, as we've seen here in Napa. So you have to really be like all the way in it. But yes, so after I went to Ohio State, the Ohio State University,
Okay.
and after that, I was studying business, and then I moved to Manhattan. Actually, I decided to go. I needed a new venture, and I got a great job. I was the wine buyer for at the time the Palm Steakhouse, and I also worked for
Okay.
Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. And so I was pretty young at the time, and they were like, "Oh, you should become a sommelier. Like that would be really a great addition to you kind of being this manager and this buyer." And I was like, "Absolutely." So I went to the Sommelier Society of America and studied and passed the exam, and it was very, very exciting. And fell in love with wine. Just the joy of it, the way that you get to interact with humanity with wine, which I can imagine is very much why you guys do what you do as well, is that like it's such a joyous, wonderful thing, but it also touches on so many different elements of humanity.
Mm-hmm.
There's
Mm-hmm.
cultural elements, there's artistic elements, there's geography, there's science, there's chemistry, there's and but then you're dealing with food and wine pairings, and it's just so fun and so
It's
wonderful.
hits
So
many different levels.
Yeah,
yeah.
you
And even
never get
like with
bored.
me now that yeah, yeah, there's always another thing. You're like, oh, whoa, I didn't think about that. Now that I'm producing wine, it's like, oh, wow, I have to study like all of the legalities and the historical points of wine and state to state shipping and compliance. Like there's always more to learn. It's fascinating and sustainability and all of that. So
Yeah.
I fell in love with it. And then I decided it was time to move to wine country. I've lived in Manhattan for 5 years, and it was wonderful. But was from California, and I was like, man, it's cold. I miss California. And I moved to Napa Valley, and it was just all over after that. Just being in like the mecca of great winemaking really
Mm-hmm.
just kind of drew me all the way in, and that's where I think the origination of like one day I just dream of being a winemaker, a vintner, like getting to do this. So
And now you're living the dream.
yeah, yeah, it's pretty cool. Napa's a small, wonderful community. So is Sonoma, and people that I've studied, since I was young are just kind of like hanging out at the coffee shop, like, or famous chefs on TV, things like that. It's really neat. But everybody's so nice and kind and they look out for each other. So great way of
Well,
life.
what drew you to consult for Napa Valley Green
Oh,
or
yes.
Napa? I guess
So
it's Napa Green,
Napa Green.
correct?
Napa Green.
Napa Green.
So this is awesome. So winemaking is wonderful, but I still have a consulting business, which has actually been very successful. So I consult for different wine brands, and I actually kind of was fortunate in that I hit a really good time frame where I had started consulting for wine brands to help them with marketing and going into the digital space and things like social media. And it's something that the wine world is very slow on the uptake with. They're used to very traditional marketing, like print advertising, things like that. And so right before the pandemic hit, I actually started helping wine brands come online with social media and digital marketing. And then the pandemic hit, and then everybody really needed that.
Everybody had to have it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
It's a good
so
time to start your
it was
business.
very opportune for me. Yeah. So it was great. It presented a lot of opportunities, which was wonderful. And as I mentioned before, the wine community is very tight knit. We really look out for each other. We do our best to take care of one another. And so a lot of my contacts were wonderful and like hired me and helped me kind of build my business. And that became successful enough that I was able to start my little small brand. But I do still consult. And again, talking about aha moments, you have a lot of aha moments in wines, like wines that like blow your mind or they're like an epiphany to you. Or so I kind of had an aha moment, not drinking wine, but being like, gosh, I really have learned how to tell great stories, how to use my voice, how to make an impact in what means the most to me. What can I do to try to offer up more trying to think of the right word. I don't want to say help because I feel like that's a little presumptuous, but more, how can I use my voice and my time to really give back to the community and help out and do what I think is right for this time and place in the world. And I had been reading about sustainability. I work with a great master of wine named Martin Reyes, who's been doing a lot in sustainability. We're going to taste his wine next. And it was just a very opportune moment for me to reach out and try to work in sustainability. So I got connected to Napa Green, and they were thrilled to have me come on and have me start doing social media, which has been an incredible platform for telling stories and for sharing information. Sustainability is very confusing. So we're excited to be breaking it down, every little post we can. So
well, and that's why we're happy to have you on. So we are doing our a series of episodes focused on fitting wine into your lifestyle, and this episode is focused on more of the social side of things with the sustainability and you're right,
We're calling it the worldview point of view, not because the others are more how do you fit it into your personal diet, but not only that, but your whole lifestyle, which wine hits not only the food and wine pairings, but the cultural aspect, which is then hits on to the sustainability and how can we continue this moving forward.
And as the buyer is becoming more educated, ethics are important to some buyers. Some buyers that's what we want people to start with is what are your non-starters or your must-haves, and then work your way through. So if somebody really buys ethically, then we want to give them the resources to know
how do they know
that.
What should they look for, because there's so many different certifications. So let's go ahead and break down first what
please.
Napa Green, you say it's also a certification program. What needs to occur for it to get that certification?
So there's two different branches of Napa Green. First and foremost, though, Napa Green is the leading certification, and we really are leading the way in kind of creating this space and helping others even come on board. Our director, her name is Anna Britton, and she's considered a global leader in this, and it's such a privilege to get to work with her and hear her thoughts on this and watch her kind of develop these programs. And she actually winds up consulting, but for several other smaller programs, FYI. So it's pretty funny because people are like, that looks the same as Napa Green. And we're like, yeah, it does.
Okay. Yeah, and that was a question. So Napa Green is the leader in US or the leader worldwide?
Well, so they're each regional at this point. And I think that's where some of the consumers I can see very much and relate to the consumer where it's kind of a little bit difficult to understand. Does that make sense? For example, there's like Lodi rules, and that's only specific to Lodi. There's Napa Green, which is only specific to Napa. At least right now, one of our bigger goals is to eventually see if we can kind of create like a California or like West Coast green certification that will kind of encompass
I know
further
a
than
few
just a
years
small
ago,
region.
Sonoma was they were pushed to have all their wineries.
Sonoma
Yeah,
County
Sonoma
was.
County. So anybody who got that certification, it was all the wineries there. I think they ended up getting 100% too.
Yes, they did. So actually, the vineyard that I work with is actually not in Napa, which is funny. People are, I'm based in Napa, but they're in Sonoma and they're one of those wineries. So
Okay.
yeah. Mhm. So I think it's interesting because there are different certifications and a lot of them are regional. So I think I would say I would recommend to understand it, kind of start there with sort of regional aspects of things. And this different certifications focus on different things. So
Okay.
Napa Green is a really holistic approach to sustainability. We think about what is sustainable. We get asked that all the time basically. And we think of sustainability, it's kind of a set of ethos and operations. Like what are your business practices? What are your kind of principles in business and in how you do business responsibly, and what does that lead to essentially? And kind of we help people kind of audit what they're doing to, and not just audit, it's a difficult word, but we help highlight practices that we're like, oh, that's great. Well, here's some things you can do to kind of move in a more sustainable direction. And Napa Green is wonderful because we don't act as a regulatory body in any way. We're actually kind of like an extension of your team. It's kind of like you get this set of consultants
Okay.
essentially that come in and help a winery put in place all of these sustainable practices.
So what does it mean to be sustainable for Napa Green?
So
What does that
we
look like? What does a
So
winery
what
look
are you
like?
looking at? What
Yes.
are
Sure.
those
It's
things?
about, it's kind of, oh, so I mean, it's the obvious one. Most people, when they think of sustainability, they immediately think of the land. Like organic almost is something that people associate with sustainability, and that most certainly is a part of it. But we see it as this group of what we call the six pillars, essentially. So that's actually only one piece of it, is absolutely, be caring for your land in the most sustainable ways. And that's actually what a lot of the other sustainability certifications address, is those sort of land pieces, like whether or not they spray pesticides, herbicides, things of that nature, and
Okay.
whether or not they're organic or biodynamic, which is another certification that you see a lot on bottles. But Napa Green goes further. We actually have a whole other set of things that we look like. We look at things like efficiency of your winery operations and building, like your energy usage. Are you using solar power? Are you using clean energy? Things like that. And we actually partner with a group called Marin Clean Energy, or MCE Deep Green, so people can go completely like deep green, 100% clean
Oh.
energy powered. Things that, yeah, maybe somebody didn't think that, or they didn't even know that was an option or a resource. And then we look at water efficiency, how vineyards are irrigating, and how we can help them kind of use less water in operations, especially here in Northern
Go dry
California, where,
farm. Yeah. A lot of
yeah,
dry
yeah,
farming. Yeah.
you got it. We actually do. We offer like trainings and things that people can come and learn about that with. And we do a great symposium, which the next one's coming up in April on Earth Month. But you can come and like learn about all of these things and how to do them, and like implement these practices in your business and in your vineyard. And then another huge one right now is social equity. We're looking at equity, diversity, and inclusion. And that's, we, again, a lot of people think of sustainability like, oh, okay, great, sure, like what we're doing in the vineyard, what we're doing at the winery. But this is actually very much like sustainability doesn't exist at all without people and how you're treating your people. So we do a lot of work on that pillar of sustainability as well. We have integrated pest management, which is, it's a fun one for me. It's one of my personal favorites. So instead of using something like a pest control that's a little bit dangerous, you can implement owl boxes and bluebird boxes, and they will just naturally go take care of these pests that you might otherwise have to do something less than savory to take
Right.
care of.
I know even whenever I have my garden, I'll take my eggshells and I'll put them in the soil by my tomatoes, because it's supposed to like cut the worms that are going to try to get up to the tomatoes. So I've heard that. So that's why
Yeah.
I put the tomatoes there. I don't know if they use a bunch of eggshells in a vineyard, but
Not
that's
that
kind
I've
of the
seen,
same
but that's a
concept.
total, yes, it's totally like a practice like that. Absolutely. I mean, it's things like composting, and it's things like waste reduction, which is a huge one. We were talking about the 3 R's, like recycle, reduce, reuse, and we're
Yeah, well, that's what I
huge.
asked you when it offline, because that's kind of coming from the old school. Whenever I used to teach recycling with my fifth graders, it's the 3 R's: reduce, recycle, reuse.
Mhm.
How can you do
Yeah.
that? And then even whenever we're talking about these wine bottles, I see yours is pretty petite. Do you keep the wine bottle weight in mind whenever you're packaging?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something I actually learned from Napa Green. So my wine, M. Rosé, is made in a Napa Green facility, which is really cool. And so things that Napa Green kind of teaches you and highlights is that sort of a thing like, hey man, we actually do not need these huge bottles that weigh a lot. That's just pure marketing. There is no reason, there's nothing beneficial that like occurs from a bottle weighing an exorbitant amount. Um, and it actually really reduces your carbon footprint if you take down your bottle weight, because there's sort of a tough number to contend with when you're thinking about sustainability, and that's distribution. We do a lot here in wine country, and the wineries do a lot to be very green and to be very mindful and very careful and sustainable. But distribution is a lot of like shipping, trucking, packaging. That's where
Yeah,
a lot of our carbon
a
footprint
lot of
comes
usage.
from. Great. So we were talking about the features that are sustainable with M. Rosé, and we talked about the glass. We talked about the natural cork, which is very sustainable. And I wanted to highlight the fact that I actually did not use, and I chose to forego foils. And then foils can be kind of imprint on the label, or they can be here, which are the capsules. And I thought that would be a sustainable choice because essentially many of the capsules, they just become trash. There are a lot of other things that you can do with glass, and glass is actually very recyclable. If you follow us on Napa Green, you can see us walk through the recycling process of glass, and it's actually a turnaround of 60 days. So it's something that is quite sustainable. And that's another point in sustainability that's confusing with glass is very recyclable. But by and large, capsules are a little bit more difficult depending on who produces them and depending on where they come from. There are some producers that do produce tin foils that can be recycled, but it's still kind of an additional step. So we chose to forego that, and we think that it actually looks very stylish and beautiful. I often kind of like to explain to people that sustainability and luxury do not need to be separate. They actually can operate together. And something kind of fun that we did, and we're seeing more and more wineries do this. I'll name one next, but we actually tried to make the cork very beautiful and kind of
Oh,
decorated.
I
So we
noticed
put M
that.
Vino on it. We did like a beautiful M here on the label, and it's actually my information in my Instagram hashtag on the
Got your
bottle here.
socials,
So
social
yeah,
media expert you.
yeah, because I do a lot on social media, and I think it's a great way to connect. So we thought that would be really, really fun. So
My daughter, her dog, when she got his little tag done, it has her socials on it. And
Oh,
I thought I would have
wow.
never even thought about that, but that was right where her Gen Z mind went was,
That's how you
that's how you
contact
find
me.
somebody.
that's how you
Yeah.
contact people. Yeah. So fun things to do for sure.
Well, let's go ahead and jump right into wine number 2 here. I can't wait. I love a good red blend.
Smells
The
delicious.
color is gorgeous. Good, dark, inky.
Opaque. And it does have a little bit of purple to the edge.
The smell is oaky and tobacco-y, and
Maybe when you get a moment, you can tell us what the blend is.
Sure. Yeah, I would love that. So, just to introduce this wine, this is Peter Paul's Master's Blend. So, highly sustainable produced wine, but also very delicious and very luxurious, and important and connected to me in my work in sustainability because I work with Martin Reyes, who's Master of Wine, and he actually led me down the path of sustainability, and it's wonderful. But this is called the Master's Blend because it's a nod to him becoming the first Mexican American master of wine ever, and
oh,
still the only. And so it's
Really?
very special because, as we mentioned before, part of sustainability is social equity, diversity, inclusion, and it was so wonderful and special and meaningful for me to watch his journey and just watch the representation that he now embodies so beautifully. He's just kind of showing a whole generation of people that this is an opportunity for them and a pathway that they can take. So it's wonderful. So that's why it's named Master's Blend. It's a nod to Martin Reyes becoming the first Mexican American master of wine ever. And it is a luxurious and delicious Napa Valley red blend, and it
Mm-hmm.
is done in the Bordeaux blending tradition. I actually work with this brand as well, and I consult with them. And the goal of this brand is to understand that
Did
we
you
are
taste?
California in nature, but we are kind of hearkening back to our roots in Napa, our roots in Europe. So we kind of blend this ripeness from California with this elegance, this European style. So this is a blend of 76% Cabernet, and the rest is mostly Cabernet Franc with a little tiny bit of Malbec on the
Mm-hmm.
finish. So I'm kind of wondering if you can pick up on
We
that,
snuck a
but
little
Yeah.
taste, so we're gonna have to go back up and tell
nice.
people what we smelled. But it is
It's
really nice,
it very
very nice.
much is
Mm,
old world Bordeaux
Mm-hmm.
style. The
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know if it's the Cabernet Franc that ends up making that structure in there because it adds such a difference than just straight up Cabernet Sauvignon. Is it really the grape or is it the handling of it?
what a good question. Gosh, we could talk about that for hours, but I'll try to I'll try to
Summarize.
shorten it for you. Um, Again, you start with grapefruit. Great winemaking always begins with grapefruit. So that's really what we do. We source from three different vineyard sources here in the Napa Valley. So Rutherford is kind of the backbone
Mm,
of our selection there. And Rutherford's really considered to be the heart of Napa Valley. Rutherford and Oakville are the most famous areas of Napa Valley. So we
mhm.
get really good fruit. And Rutherford has this beautiful kind of luxurious ripe black fruits to it, like that kind of black currant and that, ripe blackberry. But Rutherford also has this great kind of thread of this like mocha kind of chocolatey thing happening on the finish that is really, really beautiful. But then we back it with a little bit of Cabernet Franc as well. And Cabernet Franc in Napa does really well. It has um, really interesting notes to it, but what we call, well, usually why we blend Cabernet Franc into a red blend is it gives it what we call like a little bit of lift. So as we
Mm-hmm.
know, and kind of we're talking about before, Cabernet can at times be big and bold and, powerful, which is great. We love that, but we love that Cabernet Franc adds this kind of lighter sort of elegance to the wine, and especially mid palate.
Mhm.
And then the Malbec just gives it this like grit right at the finish that we really like. So that's often why we blend fruit the way that we do, is we're kind of trying to create
Okay.
these complex flavors and textures. So
Hitting it in all different parts of
Areas.
your mouth.
Mm-hmm.
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well, it
Excellent.
absolutely.
is very nice, very well done. So we know your background, and you're a consultant for Napa Green, but say
Mhm.
a company that has taken that's not tied to the entity itself. What makes them seek it out? And this could be Paul has obviously been doing it. So what made him take that leap? And is it a personal choice, and then or it and tied to integrity, and then supported by
What's the
or
motive?
supported by demand, or you know
Yeah, great question. Yeah, I would say it's a mix of both things, but definitely, though we're seeing the rise in demand of sustainability for sure, we are. I think consumers are requesting and requiring it. Like every time I travel, there's a sustainable claim on everything I pick up, whether it's the water bottle or the napkin I'm holding, or even like I flew JetBlue recently someplace, and there was all these notes about how they're being sustainable. So that is something that we're seeing in the marketplace, and that is very important for any company, business, or product to really become aware of. I would say in the wine business, it really is a choice, and it is one that does require more intention and more work. And so it's really beautiful to see producers like this really put their best foot forward. So I would say that with Peter Paul and with Martin Reyes, it was definitely a choice because of their personal ethos, their ethics, how they believe that the wine business should be, and that how they want their brand to be for sure. Um, but there are huge perks to being sustainable. It's funny with Napa Green, we actually talk about that a lot in a lot of our trainings that we do, is that it seems a little overwhelming at first, or like it may be more expensive, but oftentimes you wind up saving money. Like if your wine bottles weigh a little bit less and they go into transport, that costs a little bit less to ship, or it's just better in generally, or there's cool little wins with sustainability too. But a short answer to your question is that yes, it's definitely a moral, ethical choice, and it can be at first a little bit overwhelming, but you often very quickly see the positives and even financial perks and rewards as you start moving down that path. Did that answer the question?
Yes, and
Yeah.
that's what you end up is when you make a decision like that with a ethical or with your personal ethos, like you say, it tends to get rewarded by the universe and just come back tenfold. So that's always
Yeah, it's pretty
helpful.
fun. Once you get started on the path, you wind up seeing rewards very, very quickly. And we're sort of ahead of the curve in the wine business, though consumers are really asking for it. There is not necessarily any requirement or demand yet in the wine business where there are in other sectors, but so that brands that are doing it are ahead of that sort of bell curve that is about to hit the wine industry. So
And
it's
they
highly
and they
recommendable.
do, and they can tell that story, which is an added feature too, to help make them stand out from your everyday wine that may not have that extra advantage. If the average consumer wants to know what those 6 pillars are of sustainability, where would they go to be able to find those?
So the best place to find them really is on our website, which is napagreen.org, and we talk a lot about the 6 pillars. But beyond that, I would highly recommend and ask, and anybody listening, give us a follow on Instagram. I am kind of in charge of their social media, and we do our very best to make it approachable and fun and interesting and understandable, because sustainability can be kind of a big topic to take on, and it can feel a little overwhelming at first. So we try to make it kind of relatable, and like, here's this little piece of it, and here's this, and not only in a dry format, but in a way that where we literally take you around and show you like what it looks like in beautiful Napa Valley. So
Well, and what we talked about too in our pre-call was that a lot of people are looking at sustainability, overall, and I think at some point there's your 6 pillars are probably in common with what overall the market is. There's going to be a market centralization, I think, of the concept of sustainability, and it isn't just the 3 R's. It isn't just recycle, reuse. What's the other one?
Reduce.
Reduce,
yeah,
reduce, recycle, reuse. Because that's like old school, right? And now what's happening is we recognize, yeah, we got to do that, but we've got to go beyond that. And I think that especially that younger generation that we were just talking about, they're really into find that, and they're actually their demand is going to be for products that are more thoughtfully placed, not just I think is what, and I think that is going to drive a lot.
well said. I completely agree. I think that wine at times can feel a little bit overwhelming or unapproachable or stagnant, or like you have to be XYZ to understand and experience wine. And I actually see sustainability as a wonderful opportunity to really connect with a younger generation and invite people in and make sure that they understand that a lot of what goes into wine is like this deep love and a deep care for the land and the people and responsible business all surrounding it.
But I think as you're educating folks on it from the wine perspective, I think it carries over into what people are looking for overall. So they'll be getting that education. They'll just also be doing it while learning about wine. So that's just double
Yeah.
fun.
And like you said, I love that you guys are bringing it into almost a lifestyle choice, because that's true. I love to see consumers make these lifestyle choices that are like, you know what? I have purchasing power. What do I do with that power? I'm going to choose kind of an ethically produced sustainable brand. And if I could, one good way to look for that, you're going to see this more and more. This is Cake Bread, who they are fabulous and they do an incredible job. But they actually have a label on the bottle here where you can see like this is a Napa Green wine.
And
And you're going to see that more and more in the wine industry. There will be labels that,
Well,
and with Peter Paul.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and Peter Paul too.
So speaking of that, though, we have noticed. So Napa Green is just one of, but there are, and they're all over. And I noticed South Africa. We just had an interview that won't air until January, but their label is kind of at the top, and theirs is integrity and sustainability is
But theirs is government based.
I do
The
believe it.
overall,
Yeah.
overarching the
But
whole.
they're not all that way. It's because remember there were two, and one had it and one didn't. So it's not like all of them are produced that way, but there is a designation you can get that is from the government or their governing board. So,
Yeah.
and then I think, I mean, there's lots of them out there. So I do think more and more you're going to see that, just kind of like fair trade. And once that kind of takes off and shoots off in the market, then like you said, those that have seen it coming and have jumped on board are going to be a step ahead.
And that's
Agree.
what
And there is going to be more coming down the pipeline, and we're hoping that even like stores and things like that could even make that as like a section. Like these are sustainably produced wines. Look at this section. Wouldn't that be cool? Like,
Well,
and you can organize them by label in that way.
kind of like the betterment section.
we just found that out. We didn't
just
know
learned that.
about that section. So now, but some of your sections are going to end up crossing over one another. You may have a betterment section and a sustainability
Well,
section.
from our perspective,
Yeah.
the lifestyle brand, we put them all in the same category because if you're looking for something, and hopefully they'll take our advice on this and listen to the 6-part series, but because people are looking for all of it. They want all of that. They want organic, they want biodynamic, and they want to buy with intention.
Yeah.
And it does help if they're categorized in a nice little, here they are.
Well,
Look,
yeah, because
It's me, by me.
yeah, well, I mean, it makes so much sense to me. You're moving through the grocery store quickly, and you're kind of like, oh gosh, what do I? And it's like organized, and you're like, damn, okay, great. I know I can trust that. So
Yeah.
I hope that we see more and more of that for sure, and I hope it drives the entire market to think more sustainably and produce more sustainably.
Well, we do appreciate all your effort in helping to get the word out and helping educate consumers through what I guess IG and through Napa Green. So it's been a real pleasure talking to you and getting all this information.
Yes, and we appreciate you being on with us and playing Instagram Live and all the fun stuff.
Tell everybody how people can source these wines and what the price points are on both of them, if you would,
sure.
please.
Yeah, so that's actually something that we, also hope is sustainable. So the best way to find my wine is to just, directly with me. So it's www.mvinorose.com, and anytime you message, it's me that you get, or follow us on Instagram at mvinorose.com. And we can ship things directly to any state. So that would be wonderful. We do have a pretty strong presence within, Northern California and Southern California. So you can find us many places there. But if you're looking for it anywhere else, just message us directly and we'll ship it right to you. Peter Paul Wines, again, distributed and sold kind of mixed places throughout the East Coast in California, but you can also reach us there as well. We are at Peter Paul Wines on Instagram, and that's really fun. And we're peterpaulwines.com, so you can reach right out to us. So buying wines direct is a lovely thing to do, and I recommend it whenever possible. I would say that's a nice way to go. You're usually helping kind of support the producer in that way, in a very lovely way, so which is also sustainable. So
that's true. That adds another layer of sustainability.
Yeah, definitely. Reach out to us. We love conversing with people. We love chatting with people. It's part of the wine industry that is the best part.
Michelle has to ask you her final question. Usually for a winemaker or a vintner, we can't let you go without asking this question.
And you can play an answer for both if you have an answer for both, but you definitely can do it for M. Rosé. So we like to ask if you had to describe these, or if you could or would describe these two wines with non-wine words, like personality-based words, or even if you wanted to go so far as a celebrity. And if you have to take a moment, you can take a moment. We actually had someone who said, "I'm going to have to think about it," and gave us the personality traits, the adjectives for it. And then when we were posting about his episode, he finally told us the personality.
Because I got it.
It took me 2 weeks, but I got it.
Ooh, that's a good one. So that's going to be easier with Rosé because I'm the creator of that. So if I had to think of a word, I would just say joyous. That's my goal with this, is I just want people to experience that kind of joyous, like, moment. That's another word that I thought was really important. Like, it's a moment in time where you, even if I'm not there at the table, I feel like I get to interact with people. So I would want them to experience joy or joyousness. I would say with Peter Paul, like attainable luxuriousness. Like there is a luxury to this wine, but it also feels inviting and warm and comfortable, like not out of reach or not, $2,000 a bottle. So, but you get this great sense of that. So I think that's kind of
And
what I
it
would
is
go
a very
for.
luxurious. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Stay
yeah, I would
tuned
go
for
for
those
that.
ratings.
I know I'll have to think on like a good celebrity. Like if this were a celebrity, who would it be? That's kind of fun. I love that. I'm not quite sure. That's a
All
fun one,
right.
but I'll get back to you on that one.
Okay.
Will
Oh, but if
do.
M. Rose were a celebrity, I think she would be Pink. I love Pink as a
Oh,
celebrity
I
because she is
do.
Pink and she's all about Pink, but I also just really admire Pink and all that she does. And she's very fun and joyous and talented, but she has very important things to say and she's very intelligent and has a lot going on. So
Multi-layered.
I love that.
yes, which is
Yeah.
kind of my goal with Rosé. I want it to be that like frivolity and joy, but have more to it, like underneath. So
Have some
Excellent.
substance.
Yeah,
yeah.
we love that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being on, Megan.
Yes, thank you so much for hosting me today. It was great to talk to you.
Well, that was a lot of information and a lot of behind the scenes. We had to stop. We started again. We Instagrammed in the middle. There was a lot happening.
There was. And I guess that's kind of indicative as to Napa Green, because if you go to their website, they do have a ton of information about sustainability.
Yeah.
There's videos there that you can learn and read about to be able to educate yourself even more. So there's just
Rabbit
tons.
holes to fall down.
Exactly. So let's go ahead and get right on to rating these wines. And for those of you who don't know our rating system, we do it by corks, 1 to 5 corks. Oh, don't spill.
I didn't.
Okay. So 1 cork is that you did not like it at all. You find a sink. 2 corks is, oh, okay, you'll finish the glass, but you didn't find it that enjoyable.
You'll be polite.
Then 3 corks is, oh, that was an interesting wine. I'll have another glass. 4 corks is, oh, that was really interesting. I'm going to have to go buy another bottle. 5 corks is where you want to buy a whole case, give it away, drink it all the time.
So good. Yeah. All right. Okay. So the first one is Megan's M. Rosé.
I really like this. I don't know if I'm starting to get more and more good rosés that I'm trying now than just your little ones, but this one just hits all the right spots. I can just imagine how exceptionally food friendly this one must be.
What I like about a rosé is how food friendly they are, and we have been kind of on a good roll with them.
Yeah.
And I just keep running into, I want to try this food with this and this
I know.
food with this. So
I know.
I am enjoying it. What was your rating?
Oh, it's a 4 for sure.
Okay, yeah.
Yes, it's definitely. I mean, it's got it has the aroma, it has the taste, it has the longevity. It really has the mouthfeel. It's the
mouthfeel is
the
big for me
mouthfeel is
'cause
huge.
It definitely I can appreciate. And we learned a new wine word today. Venice is how she said
Venice.
it. Venice. But yes, I enjoy it. I like the way I like the intentionality that they had towards the mouthfeel because it comes across in the glass. I would give it a 4 as well. And you don't have to have it with food. It's perfectly fine sitting right here without food. It would just be, I can imagine how much more enhanced it will be. And in fact, we Coravend it. So it's, yay, we can have more.
Playing with the wine.
It's going, it's going to make its way to our Thanksgiving table, and we're going to get to see how it tastes with lots of different food. All right. And then our Peter Paul.
Yeah, I was so shocked at this one. I did not realize, I didn't read the back or anything. I kind of came in blind as far as what this is. This is so old world tasting. It's like, oh my.
Well, it's the best of both because it's a Rutherford cab. And those are rich, like she said, they're
rich and
indulgent.
bold and luscious. And then you have that Cab Franc in the back that just
Giving it that.
I didn't realize it was called lift, and that's a perfect way to describe it because sometimes cabs, they kind of do, they're heavy all the way
They
through.
bring you down a little.
And then
Yeah.
this cab, I keep using my hands. So if you are watching this on I'm like, let's
We're raising the roof.
so it's but it's really, I mean, I guess I'm expressive with my hands to be able to help show
How good
it is. But Oh my, this one is.
And if you're just listening to us, we're moving around a lot. We're waving our hands.
It
and
is
doing all kinds of fancy stuff.
exceptionally luscious. I'm going to have to give this one a 5. That's
Okay, yeah. I'm taking another sip, but I would have to agree. And it just it gets the benefit too of when we're talking about time and place. Hitting it. It's a cold day. It's been a cold, nasty, rainy couple of days, and this is so luxurious. It makes you want to just. It reminds me of a luxurious blanket that you cuddle up with, and it's just that perfect glass of red wine to have with it as well. So it's very good, and it was a nice surprise because we didn't have any expectation of what we were getting, and then to know that it's ethically grown and it's sustainably made. That just shows you
it checks a lot of boxes.
So we do, speaking of those things, I did say I gave it a 5 as well. If not,
Okay.
I agree. But the point of the episode was lifestyle and how things fit into your lifestyle. And we hope that you learned a little bit about sustainability as we're talking through these different talking points. Next week, we'll get into winemaking processes and those organic, biodynamic, some of those buzzwords that we talked about.
And some of those processes are part of that 6 pillars that Napa Green has for sustainability. So they kind of all intertwine, but they're still separate pieces because sustainability affects more than just growing practices.
Right. And for those of you that were interested in following along, the wines that we have selected for, or tasting along with us, the wines that we selected for that one are the Aveline wines.
Yes.
Cameron Diaz has them. We're excited to try them because they are made with low alcohol as a thought process, with sustainability as a process. She wants well-made, clean wines because she's also one that looks for that in her life. And so Cameron Diaz, went and found a wine and created a wine that fits those buckets. So we're happy to try that one too and report with y'all. If you want to try it with us, go ahead and grab them. It'll be next episode. We'll be talking about all those fun things. We hope you're enjoying this How to Wine Fits in Your Lifestyle series. This is episode 4. You got 2 more to go. We hope you'll join us next time on Wines to Find.